Welcome to Aussie Lawn Stars. A lot of people have been talking about the new Ego commercial range of tools that are fresh on the market, and I've been keen to try them for myself. So far, I've been giving the STX 4500 Bipper Dipper a good run. If you like the torque and power of a geared down head, you'll love this, as it's like a 35cc petrol machine, and once you realise how good it is to work with battery power on a whip stepper. Ego have many battery sizes available to choose between, weight saving or a longer runtime. I personally would compare this to a 25cc Bipper in weight when you run the 5Ah battery, but I like to run the 10Ah battery, which makes it feel more like a 35cc in weight and balance, but the power and feel is better. I'm yet to work out the runtime with this configuration, but it's safe to say that the 10Ah battery is going to get a long runtime, well over 1 hour on a mix of different uses. This episode is recorded on the 26th of September 2023 with Thomas Hansen, and he is particularly interesting because he has achieved a lot in under 12 months. The gym's franchise model really does give people an unfair advantage when starting up, but Thomas Hansen has taken his business in a unique direction, running all Ego tools, including the Ego 42-inch zero turn. Enough of me talking, let's go meet Thomas.
Welcome to Aussie Lawn Stars, the fresh cut lawn care podcast. We've got Aussie legends and cowboys, seasons and grasses, and we're talking about unique equipment. Prepare to hear the real-life tales of local stars. Plus, we have the latest equipment, reviews, and exciting interviews with the best suppliers. We will dig the fertile field of stories from part-time solo operators who are living the life, along with those of growth-focused entrepreneurs, identifying what makes a business successful. We really do cover it all.
We have our KPIs. No. All good.
KPI for the dungeon.
Yeah.
So don't tell me you're another one of these KPI people.
The gyms or just KPIs?
You just you measure your KPIs.
I do. It's like I did logistics and distribution for 20 odd years, so it's almost instilled in me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I time how long it takes me to mow a place, and then I've got a little timesheet set up, so I actually work out dollar per minute per place to try and get the most efficiencies out of it.
Nice. So have you thought about using ServiceMate or Jobber or one of those apps to do that automatically?
Not yet. I have been listening to the podcast about ServiceMate from both you and Luke, so it's definitely something I'll look into. But while I'm still building, because I've only been in the game for 11 months, so while I'm still building, I've sort of just used good old Excel spreadsheets.
Fair enough. I did that for a long time, and I don't need to be measuring it per job at the moment, but ServiceMate, I would hazard a guess in your first 12 months, $29.95 a month would probably get you out of trouble. And if you've been doing really well, the $80 a month or $79.95 a month.
Yeah, okay.
And that's like one job.
Yeah, true.
For itself. And the amount of time it would save you from writing it out and putting it in the spreadsheet.
Yeah, look, it's really only like I've got my set clients now that I know, I pretty much know exactly when I'm going to start and finish on a day. It's when I get new clients. When I do a new client the first time, I'll do the first time I do it, and then I might do it again in, I don't know, 4 to 6 weeks, just to see, knowing that my efficiencies would have improved. So,
well, I guess the benefit of having the CRM or the scheduling software is that it does that all in the background for you. So you can, at any point in time, go and check on your efficiency and see how you're going, see if you're tracking well or if you're behind or if you're in front. Even. Yeah. So I'm not trying to sell it for you, but I think it kind of sells itself in that regard.
Yeah.
Especially when that's something that you really value.
Yeah. I think it's more like I know I've got if I'm just cruising speed, then I've got stuff to do speed later in the day, so I need to get this done speed. And then I find that happy sort of medium where, I can just sort of not push too hard and still get the job done and come home and not feel flat.
And I think that's a really valuable aspect of working for yourself, isn't it? That you can either push yourself to get really good KPIs, or you can go, okay, today my KPI is quality of life and chilling out and, just put a smile on my face while I'm doing these jobs instead of being constantly push.
Yeah, I guess that's one of the reasons I got into this business. 20 years of working for the man and not being appreciated. And I think the story it's the same story you hear over and over again from people who
Yeah,
get into the lawn mowing side of things, and being able to schedule my own work and allow that family life balance now and help my wife out, dropping the kids off at school, picking them up on certain days when she's got work. And I mean, she's studying, she's doing her master's in embryology and reproduction at the moment.
nice.
So, yeah, so that's helping her a lot.
Yeah. So why don't we introduce you formally? Your name's
Yep,
Thomas Hansen,
it is. Yep.
and whereabouts are you in Australia?
So I'm located on the sunny coast.
Yep,
Yep. So
awesome.
I live in Buttram, and
No worries. I've talked to a few people on Sunshine Coast. It's a
yep,
nice spot there.
it's beautiful. Yeah.
Probably better spot than being on the Gold Coast or in Brizzy, isn't it?
Oh, we lived in Ipswich, so sort of West Brisbane for many years, and
Yeah,
then just before COVID started, we decided to make the change. Mid-COVID, it all happened, so it was
yeah, lovely.
yeah,
So, but climate-wise, you get the best of both worlds. You get close to the ocean.
yep.
You've got
So
a much more temperate climate. You don't get the mad humidity that you get in the middle of Brizzy.
oh,
No, you
we
still
have our
do.
days. We have our days. But yeah, look, I think the climate up here is way better. When we were in Ipswich, it was extreme heat and very dry out there,
Yeah.
and also got quite chilly in winter. So when I say
Yep.
chilly, you could get -1, which is very cold for Queensland.
So you'd get what, 1 or 2 frosts a year?
Yeah, maybe. We definitely had one when we moved to Ipswich. The first
Yeah.
day we moved out, there was frost. So yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, nice. Okay, so you said you were in logistics for about 20 years before you started this.
Yeah, yeah. So I started logistics up in Townsville of all places. So I did my double um, degree in science, majoring in marine biology and aquaculture, and then with 1,000 marine biologists up there, it was a bit hard to get a job. So I
Yep.
went and started working back in hotels, which I used to do, and then I didn't want to do that anymore. So I went and worked for a little courier company, and that's sort of where it all started.
Yeah,
Um,
okay. So
and
logistics makes a lot of sense when it's a courier company.
yeah,
That's their game.
yeah. So I looked after their cigarettes. So they had a contract with British American Tobacco. So I looked after the distribution from Rockhampton all the way up to the Cape,
Yeah,
which
okay.
can be very interesting when there's cyclones about moving cigarettes. So
And that's when they need their cigarettes the most, right?
yeah, when they stress, yeah, definitely. So
Yeah, so you would feel the pressure.
yeah, it was actually quite interesting. There was an Indigenous tribe up far north Queensland that called up once, and I double checked their order because they'd ordered twice as many shippers. So we're talking the big shippers of a lot of cigarettes. So a shipper
Yeah,
would hold 48 cartons. A carton would have 8 packets of cigarettes in them, so quite a bit. I
yeah.
think they're worth somewhere between $4,000 and $8,000 back then per shipper. And they doubled
So,
their order, so I rang up to double check. And he said, "Oh, a certain mollusks has moved from one side of the rock face to another side of the rock face, which points toward a cyclone being around the corner." And 6 weeks later, bang, cyclone.
yeah,
So
wow.
yeah, nature has its way.
So they knew they had their finger on the pulse and they knew that they were going to sell a lot more cigarettes. And if they didn't have them, they're not making money.
Pretty much, yeah. So they wanted to get them before they couldn't
Yeah,
get them, I should say. Yeah,
yeah, interesting.
yeah,
So logistics in the nth degree.
yes, definitely. So and then yeah, moved down to Brisbane for my wife's work. So she got a research job at Griffith University with stem cell research, and
Yeah.
back into logistics with a couple of big companies down there. And
Okay.
yeah,
So you did that until you couldn't do it anymore.
pretty much, yeah. We moved when we moved to the Sunshine Coast. I've been dabbling in both logistics and production, so I moved to another company where I did production and sort of distribution at the same time.
Yeah. Okay.
And then we pretty much got a pat on the shoulder to say that the business was going to move elsewhere, and we all had to reapply for our jobs. And
Lovely.
I was a line manager at that stage, so I was quite surprised that I had to apply for my job, and I wasn't silly, so the writing was on the wall. And I said to my wife, I've got a year and a half left at this workplace before they close up and move. So what do you want to do? And then, we came up to the Sunshine Coast for a holiday and said, why don't we just move? So that was a little bit of planning. And then I ended up working for a little biotech company up on the sunny coast. So that's how I got up here.
Yeah.
And then, looked for houses and just rentals, which was very hard at the time too. But then we were very lucky to settle on a house that needed a bit of renovation. So we moved into a renovator, which was quite stressful. With two children that thought sharing a room was great to start off with. And about 2 weeks in, they didn't want to share a room anymore. So is
this a house you're renovating?
It's the house we're in now, yeah. So we've finished renovations now after 2 years, which is good. So, yeah.
I've been in this house for 10 years and we've still got renovations to do.
Oh, there's always touch-up stuff. And now my wife wants to build a gym room and, my daughter wants a bigger room. And there's always something.
Well, when we moved in, we started the kitchen straight away. Like I was like, don't even try and use the kitchen. And I could show you how horrible it was. But we gutted it, got a kitchen person in, and then after the kitchen, it was the laundry, and then it was the living room and our bedroom and the bathroom, and and then we've done the roof and some cladding on the outside, and now we're going, oh well, where do we go now? And there's more, and still an endless list.
There's always more. So we had we got the building inspection report, and there was always they cover their backside the way they write them with signs of termite damage, but unless you pretty much rip down a wall, you won't know the extent.
Yep.
So in the whole western wall of the house, which was our ensuite in the garage, I knocked a hole in the wall and ripped away some sheeting and had a builder come in and look at it, and he said, "I don't know how your roof is still on the house. It was that bad." So we lived
Termites
in 2 bedrooms. Yeah, sorry.
Termites do that. We've been dealing with termites here in the last 6 months, or more than 6 months actually, and it's pretty heartbreaking when you've done all that work on renovations and then you go, "Oh, what?" Yeah,
it was a wake up call. And we sort of had that whole, "What have we done?" And we didn't have any other options, unfortunately. So it's like we just nutted it out and got it done, and and we did a lot of the work ourselves, which was good because it saved us quite a bit of money. Obviously, anything electrical or structural, we got the specialists in. But it's amazing how much money you can save if you've just got a little bit of nous about, doing stuff, even simple things like painting or laying floors. You can save so much money.
Yeah, if you're willing to do some work yourself, you can certainly save some money.
Definitely.
But it's a massive undertaking though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is, especially when you're moving to a new area and the kids are trying to settle into school and starting new work and lots of things. Good time to do it during COVID. It was, why not?
Fair. Yeah. So you started your business in the midst of doing that, by the sounds of it.
I think we were just coming out of COVID. So I started my lawn mowing business in November last year. So I've only been going for just under 12 months. And that came after, like I said, years of working in logistics and distribution. And one day I just had enough. You're forever being asked to find improvements and do things for businesses, but they never sort of want to give you the finances or the go ahead to do things. And then the next meeting you're sitting there saying, "Well, why hasn't this happened?" Well, you haven't exactly told me to do it because you didn't want this and this and this to happen, so I couldn't make it happen.
Yeah.
And then you sort of, it's just had enough. Just couldn't do it anymore. So, and then, why not? I still believe Facebook listens, or, the AI intelligence, because we're talking, my wife and I, and next thing there's a gyms that pops up on Facebook saying, "Hey, looking for new gyms in the area." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I wrote to the franchisor and we had a meeting within a couple of days, and I thought, you know what? Why not? Obviously, I needed to earn some money. I think it was the same with Tate Crocker from a couple of weeks ago. He said that, it comes with that guarantee, and, if you're used to earning a certain amount of money and you've got bills to pay, that sounds a lot better than going out and starting, from scratch, which we couldn't really afford to do. I'd love to do it, but at that stage it was like, a bit nerving. So
and I mean, if you look at the alternatives, right? If you start from scratch, you could start while you're still doing your other job and just do a few jobs on the weekend and build up until you've got enough to leave your job. But the leap from working a job as well as doing business on the side to actually going, no, the business is going to be the main income, it's a pretty challenging leap. If you buy a business, a franchise or an existing independent run, you know that you've got an income there.
Yeah, definitely.
So either way works. People do both directions, but it's certainly, like you say, at this point in life, that's the security, isn't it?
Yeah, and it definitely was. I mean, I think I went pretty much from, I'm done to, I am definitely done. I'm not working anymore. I can't work for people. Like, I literally had a chat to the franchisor, signed up, and then I handed in my notice. I was done. Like, I just couldn't do it anymore. You could almost call it a midlife crisis, but, it's just, I wasn't sleeping well. I wasn't looking after myself, and it was just a huge weight off my shoulders when I did it. And now I wish I'd done it sooner. Like, how many times have we heard people say that?
So did you buy a motorbike as well?
No, I was quite scarred many years ago. I worked on a tree nursery farm down at Robertson Burrowang in the Southern Highlands, and I think we had about 160 hectares where we had trees that we sold wholesale and retail. And being a big property, we had posties to ride around. And we had a 250cc quad bike. I think it was called the Timberwolf.
Yeah.
And then the owner had a couple of small quad bikes for these kids. And I'd never been on a motorbike. So hopping on a postie, I think whoever was on it last left it in third gear or something. So I said, you have to do this, and this. So I'm revving it whilst gearing down. Next minute, I'm popping monos and ran straight into the back of a tractor.
Oh, no.
I was okay. My pride was hurt a little bit, but one of the guys had to go home because he laughed so hard he lost full control. It was quite funny. Looking back at it, was hilarious. But so we used to race the posties around when it rained a lot. So we had a track, we'd time each other, and So, but that's about as much as I've done on motorbikes.
Yeah, fair enough. So you got scarred there, but you also had a good experience by the sounds of it, having a bit of play.
It was fun. I was 19 back then. You bounce off walls when you're young. So
yes.
I know my son's seen the new Ego motorbike, the little what do they call it, a monkey bike or something?
Yep.
He's dead keen on that. And I said, mate, I don't think they're legal in Australia. So he said, Dad, you got to get one.
Well, there are a bunch of other brands that bring monkey bikes into Australia, so I'm not sure on the legalities of it. I know for use on roads and whatever, there obviously needs to be ADR compliance for road use.
Yep.
But for use on private property or a golf course, which I think is where a lot of monkey bikes are targeted, then it's different compliance requirements. So it'd be interesting. But I think for a brand like Ego to bring anything like that into Australia, there's going to be a certain level of ADR compliance they have to meet just to get it into the country as a kid's bike or whatever they classify it as. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you've had a look at my profile on LMCA, but I'm full Ego, so I'm all electric.
Yeah, nice.
And I've got enough batteries to power a third world country. So that's why my son's pretty keen. He's like, you've got all the batteries, Dad. We'll never run out. So
yeah. So did you start with Ego gear right at the start?
No, I when I bought my franchise off the gentleman that was leaving, he left a bit of equipment with it. So I had a 48-inch Hustler ride-on. I had the Honda 216, had a Shindai One multi-tool and a Bush Ranger Whippy and a couple other tools. And unfortunately, they hadn't been looked after as well and caringly as he said he had. I had a pretty bad start to the business, to be honest. So the ride-on snap belts left, right, and centre that broke down all the time. The gearbox in the Honda went. The Whippy and the multi-tool both had to get serviced properly a couple of times. Yeah. And then it got to a stage where I just had enough, and I said, I just can't keep. Like, this is probably about $2,000 deep now, and taking it to a mower specialist. It was brilliant. Shane was brilliant, but I said, if it breaks down one more time, I'm done. I just can't do it. So I thought, well, what's out there? I was going to go electric eventually. It just happened a lot sooner than I'd planned for, anticipated. And I don't regret it. Like, I just It's lighter, it's easier. I can tell you one of my clients, quite slopey in Buderim where they are. With the Honda, it took me about an hour and a half to mow their property because there's a lot of levels to their lawns, up and down steep slopes. And when I got the Ego Select cut, I cut that down by almost an hour. It was ridiculous how light and quick I could turn this mower around. So
they are really good, aren't they?
definitely. Struggle a little bit in very high wet grass, but then you just do a couple of runs and, it just takes a little bit longer.
Yeah, it's amazing the Select cut, isn't it? It's such a good machine.
Yeah.
And, lightweight, but and I heard somebody quoting in the last couple of days that it outperforms the Honda HRU 216 in their opinion.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's far off, to be honest. I mean, if you keep your blades sharp and you like that's pretty much the only maintenance or service it requires is just sharpening the blades. In my opinion, when they're sharp, like it cuts through anything quite easily. And then I've got the mulch and the catch blades and the high lift blades, and yeah, it's if you maintain the blades and keep them up to speed, then I definitely think it'll outperform some of the petrol mowers out there. And I'm hoping they bring out a commercial mower sooner rather than later, just for that little bit more power for the long stuff.
Yeah, well, let's hope. I think there's certainly been proved that people are looking for the commercial battery mowers, and Ego's got some options there, I think. So it'll be interesting to see what they bring in their next iteration. I know that all their new commercial tools are just hitting the Australian market as we speak.
Yeah, I had a bit of a play down at BJ's event. On some of the tools down there, and I'm hoping to be able to get to their Brisbane event here on the 7th of October. But my son's got rep soccer trials, and my daughter's got some art class, and my wife's working, so I'm trying to find some friends that can help out with a bit of transport there. But hoping to get down there and have a look at what they've got as well, as they're promising some good deals apparently.
It's something to look forward to.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So are you still using a zero turn at all, or you?
I am. I've got the Ego 42-inch zero turn.
Of course.
And I'm using that commercially, and you know what? It's doing the job. So I've got some quite nice lawns on Buderim that I do, and I've got some acreage out west Woombai, which is on the other side of the highway, which is quite slopey and a bit rough, but there's no issues. People talk about the longevity of the batteries and stuff. I've been using the CT now for it'll be close to seven months, I reckon. It's got about 80 hours on it.
Yeah.
But it's easier to manage the batteries when you know how to use the machine and how to use the different speeds and where and when to do it. So I'm finding that I'm getting more life out of the batteries now than I was when I first started. But yeah, it's doing the job. I've got no issues. Same thing with the blades. I think that's my only thing with the Ego CT blades is they are quite thin, so they do wear a lot faster than your petrol blades. So when you do hit a stick or you do hit a rock, it does take a bit of a knock compared to what the Hustler had when I had that one.
For sure.
But I've got a couple of spare sets of blades now. I just make sure I check them after, if they've had a rough trot at a property, and then swap them over and then resharpen the old ones.
I'm guessing based on how long you've had that machine, you've got the 42-inch.
Yeah. They brought the 52-inch out about 3 months after I got it, I think it was. And
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
I would have loved a fab deck. But, there's still things coming in the pipeline. So I'm hoping that, they'll hopefully bring out a standard one day, or they bring a fabricated deck out for the 42-inch. But yeah, I love it. It's great. And my clients, a lot of them, they're like, "Oh, you were here today?" Because they don't hear it. Because it is pretty quiet.
Yeah. So one of the things that I think is interesting when you say that it does the job, and it's been doing the job well for the last 9 months, I look at the amount of hours you're doing compared to the amount of hours I do on a zero turn, and there's a massive difference there. So I think in comparing somebody who uses a zero turn exclusively versus somebody who's using a zero turn on some of their jobs, I think that would make a massive difference.
Yeah.
I think I've clocked over 50 hours on the right Stander, the right ZK. in a fairly short period of time by comparison.
Yeah. So I've got a couple of the properties I do. I've got 2 properties where I spend probably an hour and a half on it.
Yeah.
And then majority of the properties we're talking between 20 minutes and 45 minutes. So,
yeah.
And I've only got probably, I think it's 8 properties I do with a zero turn. So it's not that many, but it's definitely not properties you'd be push mowing. They're just that little bit too big.
Yeah, fair enough. So it's great to have that as a an extra side of your business, along with doing a lot of. What would you say is the percentage of work that you do push mowing versus ride on?
Oh, I'd say probably 80% push mowing.
80% push mowing, yeah. So
the ride on jobs I have, they are fairly sizable blocks, and if I was to push mow them, they would take hour and a half, 2 hours. And I'd see if I can get the zero turn in there, why wouldn't I use it?
And that's interesting because I think in your area a 32-inch stander just wouldn't suit what you do as well as the 42-inch machine.
And I've looked at that, to be honest, because I'm looking at the 32s and I'm going, it would really only benefit me on maybe, let's say, 4 out of the 8 properties I use the 42-inch on.
Yeah.
Because the other ones are probably just that little bit too big to use a stander.
But you might be able to use it on a number of properties that you used your push mower. So I guess it's something to weigh up.
Yeah, it's but it's definitely something I'm looking at. I just don't want to go out and throw money at a stander right now if I don't need it. So,
well, let's weigh up the options as well. If you're looking at a 32-inch battery stander, they're not 10K.
They're not cheap. No, definitely not. So yeah. It's in the works one day, but not right now. Like I'm still building my business. I've got 51 clients.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think Greenworks is the only option for a battery-powered stander in that sort of market in Australia now, anyway.
Yep.
So, yeah. See what happens in the future?
Yep.
Okay, so you said November last year you started, which means we're almost in October now, so pretty close to 11 months you've been operating.
Yep.
And when you started, how much of a workload did you have?
Oh, it wasn't great. I had 21 clients and about $1,700 cut value. Because I during the sort of takeover of the business, a few more clients that were on the books had dropped off and found other mowers and mowy guys. There was a few things there, but the business, it's more than doubled. So it's almost tripled since I bought it. My first day when I started, I think I had 5 mows planned, and then I got a same day urgent mow from a industrial or commercial client. In the local commercial area, and I thought, it will take maybe an hour or two because they're not very big properties, but it happened to be probably the biggest block in the commercial property, and I didn't have the ride on with me because I wasn't very confident. So I push mowed this huge area. I was there for like 3 or 4 hours. It was about 36 degrees. I was probably 15 kilos heavier than I was now, and I thought I was going to die.
Baptism by fire.
Oh, it was, mate. I was cramping up pretty badly the whole day. I was drinking lots of water but no electrolytes, so I probably did everything wrong I could do wrong. And look, I've made a few mistakes, obviously, and learnt from them.
We all have, but that's a pretty important lesson to learn there, or several important lessons.
Oh, yeah. At least I didn't get sunburnt.
True.
That was a positive. But geez, I drank some water that day, but good fun. I ended up actually winning that client over from the contractor because what happened was they had a massive conference or something on and the contractor had just gone MIA.
Yeah.
And they've called me in and I said, oh, look, I know this is another contractor and, didn't push it. And then they gave me a call about 3 months later saying, oh, he's just disappeared again. Can you please come and quote? So,
yep.
Yeah.
I spoke to Aidan Andrews earlier this year and asked him if I could borrow a ZK61 to test and compare with other machines I've been using. For those who know my podcast, you'll know I'm comparing with commercial quality machines. The right ZK build quality stacks up with other commercial machines in every way. I've followed Riot and their entry to Australia for a few years now, especially because they have one of the longest histories in stand-on mowers, and not least because they implement unique features to improve belt life, lower centre of gravity, and a deck design that achieves more and with better results, regardless of if you use their standard blades or the legendary Gator blades to mulch those clippings down real fine. Under strict instructions from Kyle and Aiden, I have sent it with the ZK through mud and on steep slopes and through tall thick grass, thick lush couch and a dusty thinning drought-ridden grass. The ZK has proven it is such a capable machine. The productivity of a 60-inch class machine with high ground speed, low downtime and efficient maintenance make this machine one of the best options for wide areas and so manoeuvrable around tight spaces without risking damage to the turf. After a long-term trial, I am convinced I should buy this machine for my business.
That's a quick question. You're obviously celiac as well.
So you're celiac?
Yeah, my son and I are both the celiac, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I was diagnosed back in 2019.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm almost certain it was 2019 because I went to Cape York in 2018, and it was at the end of 2018 where I first had a little bit of an issue, which made me go to the doctors and get checked out, and found out that I've got colitis and celiac.
Yeah, it's a very interesting disease, autoimmune disease, because a lot of people say because you're not frothing around on the ground with anaphylaxis and stuff, they don't take it seriously. Which is frustrating, but so we were diagnosed. My son was diagnosed first at 3.5. Because we had all sorts of issues with him as a baby growing up, just with constipation and that sort of stuff. And then after not fighting or arguing, but not listening to doctors and finally seeing a specialist, he got diagnosed, and then they said it's genetic. And my wife straight away looked at me and said, "It's your fault."
That's not nice.
She was brutal. I went and got checked, or we all went and got the blood test done, and my markers came back high. I think I had 3 out of 4 markers or indicators, whatever they call it. And my daughter was the same. She hasn't triggered yet though, so she's still on normal. But yeah, I came back as celiac as well. And you look back and try and work out sort of when things changed in your life. And I think we went back another 4 years where we sort of worked out that around that time I started becoming really lethargic and tired after eating bread or pasta and things like that. So not severe reactions. Now they've progressively gotten worse. But yeah, it's there's a lot more options out there, which is great.
So for the record, you weren't lawn mowing at the time that you were diagnosed?
No.
Because there is a conspiracy around that's glyphosate usage that causes celiac disease.
Nah, that's silly. It's genetic. So,
well, the theory I think is that because we use so much glyphosate on wheat, that it's the connection between the usage of herbicides on what we eat that causes the celiac disease. And I'm calling it a conspiracy because I don't believe it.
No, I don't believe it, but sure, we can.
Yeah. So it's an interesting one. And I, of course, was diagnosed after I had been running my business for quite a while. So
yeah, okay. Oh, fair enough.
Anyway, yeah, it's an interesting one. And it is interesting too in terms of how you react to contamination. And the other one that I've found interesting, my doctor, I asked him about having oats, and he said, I do an oat trial and do blood tests, and went to my GP, and my GP said, look, there's a research paper here that's just been done recently. So this is a couple of years ago now. He said, the research paper shows that where they did a thorough test of people with celiac disease and oats in trial in their diet, they had 0 recognizable reactions from having oats. So
that's interesting.
Yeah. So I did the trial myself where I did a blood test, started eating oats, and did a blood test every month for 6 months. And I had 0 celiac markers increase in that time. So at that point in time, I had been off gluten long enough that my celiac markers were down to 0 and no increase at all from eating oats.
Wow, that's interesting. I'm going to have to look that up now and tell my wife. She's a research scientist, so she'll definitely look into that. Because obviously with kids, I mean, you and I have both experienced the luxuries of life. You know, your Zinger burgers. I was a manager at Hungry Jack's years ago when I was younger.
Yeah.
So we've tasted the glorious foods that are out there. Not saying that junk food's glorious, but you can't do that anymore. And my son's never tried it, so he doesn't know what he's missing out on. So we've got that argument saying, well, he doesn't know what he's missing out on, therefore he's not really missing out.
Yeah.
We know what we're missing out on.
Well, the other thing is that when I was diagnosed with celiac disease, I straight out had to go at the doctor. I said, I've got no symptoms, so why should I stop eating wheat?
Because it makes you feel like shit. No, sorry.
It didn't, though. I mean, the thing I knew was that I was lethargic and I was losing weight. But I couldn't see any direct symptoms, and I was like, you know what? So if I accidentally eat a little bit of gluten, does it have an effect on me? Not really, not majorly. But if I have a lot of it, obviously it will.
Yeah.
Whereas other people are like, all right, if I have even a slight cross contamination from the toaster, I'm going to be in hospital.
Yeah. Or even there was a child at my son's school that basically even what do they do? Not the putty, they use flour to make some form of putty, and
Play-Doh,
that's the one. And even she was like, she'd react to touching Play-Doh.
Wow.
Pretty severe reaction too. Like she was hospitalized and migraines. I guess I can say I'm lucky. I get lethargic, and now I do vomit within half an hour of ingesting gluten. So that's my more severe one now. But my son, he gets constipated and blood noses and bloated bellies and becomes really angry.
That's not funny. That's not good at all.
But you learn to live with it, eh? Like it's just
I tell people I'm still angry, but you know.
Have you eaten? Yes. What have you eaten?
I'm more angry when I eat the gluten-free foods.
Yeah. Oh, it's gotten better though. It's definitely gotten better. Like
they say that, but I can't stand gluten-free bread. It's just like I would not eat this by choice.
No, God no. I still wouldn't, but don't really have a choice.
Yeah, that's right. It's like, well, if you want to eat something, it's going to be part of the diet.
But it's like the gluten-free cakes at the shops and stuff. They're so dry and horrible. But you know, we've played around with a lot of recipes, and we've nailed pancakes and gluten-free cakes. Now you sort of do your own little mixes, and
I've found a couple of good options out there. So there's certainly some good ones and some terrible ones.
Yes, learn by trial and error.
Yeah,
a bit like mowing.
Yeah. Well, let's get back to the mowing talk, shall we?
Definitely. Sorry.
That's all good. I'm happy to include some celiac talk in the podcast.
Yeah. Well, they're saying, what is it? 1 in 10 people are celiacs. I just don't know it.
That's interesting. I haven't heard that.
Yeah, it's becoming more and more common. It's a bit like, I should say, my wife works in IVF, and you know, IVF babies are now more common than they were 10, 20 years ago. They're saying that probably 1 in 4 or 1 in 5 kids in a classroom are born through IVF.
Yeah. Well,
so
that's insane. Yeah. So the statistics aren't always that obvious, are they?
Yeah.
So back to mowing talk. Now, I think we were sort of talking a bit about the standard 32-inch and the number of clients that you have.
Yep.
So how is your schedule at about 80% full or less than that?
No, I'm probably, if we went fortnightly, if I put all my clients on the 1 week, I could have a week off with my scheduling. But the way I've done it is public holidays absolutely killed me when I was starting out, because I just struggled to, it's not that I don't want to work public holidays, but trying to find car parks when you're towing a trailer and people not wanting you to mow on a public holiday. And I've got a couple of industrial or commercial areas that, you forget it on a public holiday because that's where the general public would use for car parks and things like that. Yeah. So I've actually cleared my Mondays, and my Mondays are my, same day mows, or I've got a real estate who's really good to me, which got me through winter.
Yeah.
So I've basically dedicated Mondays to anything they want done, I can do on a Monday. I've absolutely loaded my Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. And then Fridays, I'm sort of, again, that's sort of for the hedging. Like I've got probably half a dozen clients that I just do hedging for.
Yeah.
And I've left that for a Friday. And they're sort of 6 to 10 week schedules. So that sort of leaves enough room for me to do same day mows or emergency mows or whatever comes up.
Yeah.
So I still want to keep building. I'd like to not have to rely on sort of real estate because that is sort of hit and miss. But the one I've got at the moment, they're really good. I'm getting at least 2 or 3 jobs a week from them. Whether it's, I'd say it's 50-50 work orders and quoting. So
I've done a lot of work with real estates, and I would say they're only loyal to you when your loyalty to them is cheap prices.
Yeah, I'm not cheap and they still use me, but they rely on my communication. Like I'm really good. Again, my 20 odd years of working where I work, communication is absolute key. So, I'll get home from work and I'll check my emails. I'll get back to them and say, yes, no, I can do it. And they also, there's times where they've called me and said, we really need this done. When can you do it? And I'll have a quick look at the schedule and say, I can get that done by tomorrow. They'll be, just do it. And they're happy to pay the price. Not that I am exorbitant in my pricing. I'm still fair. But, they sort of know what my pricing is now and they still send me out to do jobs. So
that's good.
I'm either cheap and I don't know it or they like what I do.
Well, let's have a quick look at that and you tell as much or as little as you want to tell. But in terms of where you're at financially, are you at that point where financially you're comparable to what you were doing with your previous job?
Oh, gross or net?
That's another interesting question. And you would have heard me talk about that a few times, right?
Yeah. Gross, I'm absolutely smashing it out of the park compared to where, but net-wise, once you pay your tax and your GST and your super and things like that, it brings in its reality. But I'd say I'm earning more than what I was when I was working for businesses.
Yeah.
Which I'm pretty happy with after a year because I didn't think I'd be there.
So the difference between gross and net, and I would say you're still working solo. Have you used an employee at all?
Not yet, no.
Yeah. So
I'm a little bit hesitant.
When you're looking at the difference between gross and net as a solo operator, you'll look at, say, $100,000 gross and just picking a number out there.
Yep.
And you might go, okay, by the time I take expenses out of it, there's somewhere around $60,000, $65,000.
Yep.
That is either profit or wages, depending on how you look at it and how your accountant looks at it. And then you go to your accountant and you go, okay, let's do my personal tax return, and it comes back at $40,000.
Yep.
And you go, yeah, that's not that good. But the reality is somewhere in between. So you go, okay, if the accountant's telling the tax office that I did 40,000 personal income, but I'm looking at my accounting package and going, okay, $100,000 turnover, $60,000, $70,000 is mine. That's not too bad.
Yeah.
And of course, my wife only looks at what the accountant told the tax office and goes, hey, that's terrible.
Yeah. I think it's, that was another lesson learned. It's really hard when you go into a business and don't really know and don't know what questions to ask. People don't tell you something unless you ask the right question. We found that with our accountant. I'm not saying they're a bad accountant, but it was really like squeezing blood out of a stone. And I was lucky I brought a bookkeeper on because I just wanted to mow and not worry about anything else and get my head around things so I could concentrate on building the business rather than sitting for hours crunching numbers.
Fair enough.
And eventually, so we set our business up in a trust because we had a spare trust floating around, which is great, but it's not great when you get a tax return from the government because they basically give you a big fat IOU rather than a check. So the government owes me money, if you can say it that way. But we actually borrowed quite a bit of money to start the business up. I bought a car, dual cab ute, secondhand, the trailer, the business, new equipment. And my accountant said, well, the business technically owes you money. Yes. And you can get that back tax. That's tax exempt, the money the business owes you. Yeah. So, we're paying me a minimum wage, but the business is still paying back what it owes us. So that way, only until the debt's paid, but that's sort of a way around paying high amounts of tax if I was to pay myself the equivalent.
And essentially that's what a lot of people will look at when they first start their business. They might spend, $1,000 on equipment, or they might spend $40,000 on equipment. And if they're buying a franchise, there's $20,000 purchase fee for a franchise, or somewhere around there.
Yep.
So you could be out of pocket by $60,000 to start a business that you've invested in it personally.
Yep.
And that comes off your previous tax return. So if you earned $80,000 last financial year working for the man, and then you just spent $60,000 setting up your business, that brings your taxable income down to $20,000. And you've paid probably on $80,000, you probably paid $15,000 in tax. All of a sudden, all of that money should come back to you.
Yeah. In a big fat IOU from the government in a trust.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's one thing I've learned a lot. Like, it's great to get out there, but it's really hard sometimes because there's a lot of questions and there's a lot of info out there. Like the LMCA is great for so many things. And now the podcasts are out there. And I'm sure there's guys that have been in the business 15, 20 years that are saying, geez, I wish I had this knowledge or information at my hands back then, because where could I be now? But there's still, I feel you still have to ask the right questions to get the answers, because people aren't just going to dish out knowledge.
Well, 13 years ago, and it's getting closer to 14 years ago now, but I asked questions on the Independent Mowers Forum, which was a website, not a Facebook page. Yep. And I asked the questions there about what it costs to buy a business, what are they worth, all those sorts of things, what insurance to get, all those different things. And I went and I sourced a business accountant to ask the right questions about setting up the business structure. A lot of people didn't go to that effort. So I've done a fair bit of background to make sure when I started, I thought I knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
And even so, the difference between the Indie Mowers group and then going to LMCA once it started up, the amount of knowledge available and wisdom that you can garner from talking to a group of 6,000 plus people is insane.
Yeah.
It's made a difference to me.
Yeah, 100%. And there's still, there's a lot of questions that are being repeated, but it's not a bad thing because I don't remember what, and I'm a bit lazy sometimes. I don't want to go and search, keywords.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a lot of knowledge that I'm glad that I've got access to, because otherwise I wouldn't know what I was doing.
Yeah. You see a lot of Facebook groups where part of the rules and terms and conditions of joining the group is that you learn how to search the group for keywords before you go asking stupid questions. And it's one of those things. LMCA, you can ask those stupid questions and most of the time people will humour you and help you.
Yeah. And I like that, I don't like those really strict Facebook pages, to be honest. Like I'm part... I know we probably all see a lot of snakes in our industry as well. So I joined one of the local snake catchers Facebook pages up here, and they've got two main rules. One is, unless you're an approved idea, you can't identify a snake, even though you know what it is, but you can't because you're not approved. Yep. And I think the other one is you're not allowed to post photos of dead snakes unless, like, you have to put a warning, and then you put the photo in the comments. And I got in trouble there once because the bloke said, I hit this snake with my ride-on, and there's a brown snake with a perfect cut down the middle of the back. And I just went, that's not what's left of a snake if you've hit it with a ride-on mower, because I did hit one out at one of the properties and there was not a lot of snake left after hitting it, and yeah.
Yeah, to say that they split a snake perfectly in half with a ride-on, it doesn't make sense, does it?
No. So, but I love LMCA because they are pretty loose with their rules. Guys can... I don't think anyone has a vindictive or angry streak in them or anything, but, there's things said in jest and sometimes they're misinterpreted, but I don't think anyone goes out there to intentionally hurt people's feelings or...
Well, if you do get a little bit butthurt, we do have 2 Facebook groups for Australia, so there's options there, and I think they both serve a useful purpose, but LMCA is by far and away the more popular group.
Yeah, yeah.
But the professional contractors group has also got a lot of people in it that choose not to be part of LMCA.
Okay.
So I won't lose sleep over it. I'm happy to be part of both groups.
No, fair enough.
Yeah, but it's invaluable having that there. And I know going back a few years, there was before LMCA, there was the lawn contracting legends. I think it is lawn mowing legends, and it's a UK based group. That was one of the first Facebook groups I saw that was started up purely for lawn mowing contractors
in the UK. Okay,
yeah.
interesting.
But that started as around the same time that podcasts became popular. So yeah, it was sort of like all the social media stuff just sort of hit all at once.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's come a long way with COVID as well, because I think a lot of people realise that we don't need to be in an office or be in a certain space to communicate and do things.
Yeah, definitely. That's it's made a world of difference.
Yeah, it's moved the world forward, I think.
Yeah,
both positive and negative. We've got all these people that want to work from home now, which is a little bit harder in our industry unless you get those robo mowers up and running. Which they are. So
yeah, I've been playing around with robotic mowers for a little while now, and they serve a useful purpose. I don't think there's going to be a lot of contractors use them, but certainly for some unique situations, they are the best recommendation you can give.
Yep.
Or implement yourself and reap the benefits of doing it.
Yeah. Well, I've actually got a client. I do her nature strip and whipper snipping, and she's got a robo mower for her. She's got 2 top garden sections that she says, "Oh, don't worry about mowing that. The robo mower takes that." I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
Do you want me to whipper snip though? And she's like, "Oh, yeah, if you can whipper snip, that'd be great." So, yeah.
Well, there's a bunch of properties now for residential work where you can go, okay, the robotic mower that's around $1,000 or maybe up to $3,000 is a really good choice for doing the backyard. And if you choose to install or own a robotic mower on behalf of your customer and then you keep charging them to do the lawn mowing, that's a really good business model because you get to get a regular income from the customer. You still turn up and you take care of the edges and the mowing that the robot can't do. And maybe gives you an opportunity to do extra work for that customer, to do gardening or something else as well. And
it's got its place, and I'm sure it will progressively move forward in that direction eventually. Maybe not today or tomorrow, but it'll happen.
Yeah. Well, I look at it. The most useful function for me is on commercial site where the robot mowers can take, and at the moment they're doing about a third of my work for me.
Oh wow!
So. And I'm about to bump that up. Hopefully it'll go up to about half of the mowing work, and then I'll do the edges and the gardening work. But another friend of mine asked me to do some lawn renovation work for him. So weed treatments, fertilizer. Not sure if I'm going to do an aeration at this stage or not. But yeah, a bunch of different things he's looking at doing. And he says, "Oh, what do you reckon I should do about my ride-on mower? It's getting old and pretty rough." And I said, "Oh, look, there's a bunch of different ride-on options that would be better than yours." I said, "But maybe 2 or 3 robotic mowers on your property would be really good." Yeah. And I told him about a couple of different robotic mowers that use the wire in the ground. And then I said, "I'm trialing one at the moment that doesn't have a wire in the ground." He said, "That's the one I want."
Yeah, GPS. I actually had a client. So Budrum's quite hilly, and I had one call come through, and he just wanted slashing done.
Yeah.
And he argued about the price, and I said, "Well, you almost need to be a mountain goat to slash this side of the hill." It's like, "Well, we just need it done for the next couple of months because we've got this guy that's come in with a robotic mower, and that's going to take over once it's installed." And he was talking like, I think he was saying it was going to cost $40,000 or something like that. I mean, he had a Porsche and an Audi parked in his garage overlooking this pretty much the Sunshine Coast, so I don't think money was an issue for him, but he just needed someone to keep it short until the mower came in. So I think I did that property 4 times.
Yeah.
And then he said, "Yep, we've got the mower. Thanks for your time." And that was it.
Have you asked him if you could see the robotic mower that they put on there?
No, not yet. We didn't get on too well. He, he didn't like my price, even though I was cheaper than the last guy. Believe it or not, the Jim's mowing guy cheaper than the other guy. But he didn't like the fact that the first time I did it, it took me 3 hours, and then I knotted it down to about an hour 15. So he was trying to work out my hourly rate based on how long I was there for. And
yeah. The customers that think that you're only worth an hourly rate, they're just constantly trying to hassle and haggle and get a better price.
Yeah, so I was happy to let him go.
Fair enough. Don't blame me.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to know what robotic mower he's got for $40,000.
Yeah. Oh, look, I can always send him a text message. And if he replies back, I can get back to you.
But see, I'm using robotic mowers that are in the vicinity of $2,000 through to $12,000 at the moment. And there's a couple of options there that are up around the $25,000 mark. Or if you go to the bigger Husqvarna, it's the Husqvarna Ciora is heading up around $50,000, I believe.
Wow.
Give or take a little bit, depending on the configuration you have set up. But that's not suited to doing really steep slopes. That is suited to doing sports fields.
Yeah. Oh, the slope, it was pretty steep in areas.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I've got one that can handle steep areas, but not that large an area. So it will do probably 3/4 of an acre, and then 3/4 of an acre is its maximum capacity if it's not dealing with too steep a slope.
Yeah. Well, I'd say he was going halves with his neighbour apparently, and together I would say they were probably on about just over an acre of slope, and I wouldn't push mow 80% of it.
Yeah,
it was flashing. Yeah, so some parts you could push mow. If you had a razorback or something like that, you might be able to, nut it out. But
yeah. Well, he may possibly not have a robotic mower. He may possibly have a remote control mower. So things like the Green Climber or the McConnell robotic mowers, or they call them robotic mowers, but they're remote control. So you sit there with the remote and operate them from a safe vantage point.
Okay. Oh, look, I might as well reach out. Listen, he might just say no. He might not answer me. So, but I'm happy to reach out just for the sake of finding out what he got.
Yeah, I'm actually going to have a look at a FJ Dynamics fairly shortly. That's another interesting one that's hitting the market at the moment.
Okay.
The FJ Dynamics is actually, it's a robot or an autonomous mower, but it looks like a zero turn. So 42-inch deck. And I've seen them advertised all over Facebook. I think Facebook knows that I like robotic mowers for some reason. And so this one, it looks like a zero turn. What you do is you put a GPS beacon on a tripod.
Yep.
And then you drive it with the levers around the area to be mowed. So you do a perimeter cut, and it maps when you do the perimeter cut, and then you hop off it and it does the mowing.
Wow.
And that's coming in at a pretty cool price.
Wow.
For a 42-inch machine that I've been told has unlimited maps, so you could literally take it to however many customers you want, set up a map for their property, you do the edges and the gardening, or sit down and have a cuppa while it does the mowing.
Wow.
The price point that I've been told is in the $40,000 price point for a 42-inch machine.
Well, I guess if you've got big properties, then it may very well be worthwhile, if you want to keep neat and tidy.
Well, I'd say doing a large commercial residence property would be good, but also if you've got unlimited maps, which is what I've been led to believe, then you could do, say, 5 or 6 residential properties in a day that are quarter acre to half acre properties. It says it'll do 4 to 6 hours of mowing on one charge, so that would get you through an average day of those sort of jobs.
So you literally rock up, drop it off, let it start while you do the edging and other things.
Yeah, so if the property's suited to it, then it sounds to me like it could be a really good option. The reading between the lines, I don't think it's quite there yet. So I think if a contractor's listening to this and going, I want to do that, maybe see if you can get a demo before you jump, because it may not be well suited to all of the properties that you're looking at, or I think might be a couple of years before we go, okay, this machine's really interesting. But I'm going to be trialing this machine hopefully next week.
It could take the headache out of running a 2-man team and having to manage someone.
All sorts of things that could be really handy, right?
Yeah. Look, and that's that's one of the things. Like, I do want to grow my business. My wife definitely wants me to grow my business, but having spent 20 odd years managing people, I'm a little bit hesitant going back into managing people, because although it can be really, really rewarding when you find the right people, it can be an absolute nightmare and headache when you don't have the right people and you have to performance manage and manage in general. Like, yeah.
I guess that's the benefit of doing what you're doing now, right? Compared to what you were doing working for somebody else, you had to do it.
Yeah.
Now you've got the choice.
Yeah.
So you could give it a try, and then you could say, no, I'm going to downsize because I don't like it. And you could go back and forth like I've done, back and forth in between how many people you have working for you and going back, no, I don't want to do that at all. But if you do it well, you could say, okay, I'll put on a person, train them up, and if they're really good, I'll send them out to work on their own, or get them to work as a crew leader and put another person on with them, or do a 3-person team. Because if you're paying a crew leader, then often it does work out well to have a 3-person team.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's plenty of options there, but the beauty of it is that you listen to some of the podcasts. I've done interviews with people who have been creative in maximizing their returns and their profit while staying solo.
Yeah.
And I would suggest to you that the average person working solo turns over somewhere between $60,000 gross and $300,000 gross.
Yeah. Yeah.
With the main average being sort of that $120,000, $150,000 gross turnover per year.
Yep.
So, but yeah, there's plenty of people out there that are doing $200,000 to $300,000 turnover solo.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And look, the money's definitely there. It's just willing about, I guess, how hard you want to work or what you want to do. Because at the end of the day, it's your business. Like, I'm 45. I'm not a spring chicken. Like, I'm not going to be able to go at the pace I'm going at now for the next 10 years. That's for sure.
You said you're not a spring chicken. I'm a year older than you. So what does that make me?
A year older than a spring chicken? I don't know. I mean,
all good.
It's definitely one of those things that I've listened to. The best thing about our job, we've got all day to listen to podcasts, and I've been catching up on yours, Luke's, and obviously BJ and Ben's podcasts, as well as other self-development podcasts and financial podcasts and things like that. So
there's some really good ones around, aren't there?
Yeah, there are, definitely. And I think Jim's has got a podcast now too, which I haven't quite started up yet, but I'll get into that and catch up on that. I guess I should.
I was told, I knew Jim's had one, but I was told this week after putting Tate Crocker's one out that Jim has also had Tate Crocker on his podcast.
There you go.
So there you go. You get to hear 2 different versions of Tate if you want to see which podcast was the better.
I can't say, Gary. Have to be careful. But I'm definitely you're the first podcaster that has reached out, so thank you.
No worries.
I'm a little bit surprised, but yeah.
No, don't be surprised. I like to interview a range of people, from people who are fairly new in business to people who have been well established, people who are really successful, people who are thinking about shutting down.
Yeah.
You know, the diversity is valuable.
100%. 100%.
For somebody else listening to you talk about running your business, that could be really inspiring for them. Somebody else might go, I don't like this idea. That sounds like hard work. I think I'll give it a miss. I'll go back to working for the man.
Yeah. And look, it is hard work physically, but I feel the relief I've had, and I was very active in my younger days playing representative sports in football or soccer, touch football, cricket, golf, nearly anything that had a ball I played at a high level. And then, you settle down, get married, have kids, sit at a desk all day, you gain weight. And when I started the mowing, within 3 months, I dropped 15 kilos. And I had a checkup from my doctor, did my bloods, and she said that she was shocked at how quickly I'd come down to what would be considered very normal and above normal, better levels of everything.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, it was actually very, very good for me, both mentally and physically, to get into this job.
I dropped about 10 kilos, and I thought I was pretty healthy doing that. And I was like, yeah, that's back to where I want to be. But the doctor who said that's because of celiac disease didn't agree with me.
Well, there's good skinny and bad skinny.
Yeah, look, I don't mind. I think that a little bit of extra upper body strength might help me along sometimes, and certainly notice it with the dirt bike riding. It's like,
Yeah,
my shoulders and my arms are getting really so tired from dirt bike riding. Maybe I need to go to the gym and improve that part of the body.
just do some more hedging. I did 6 hours of hedging last Monday, and I felt like my shoulder was going to drop off.
Yeah.
But and again, that's using electric gear. If I was using the petrol Shindaiwa, man, there's no way in the world I would last that long using petrol gear.
So have you ordered the new Ego hedge trimmers yet?
I was just waiting for a little bit of a financial benefit kick, which I just received. So that's why I'll be going down on the 7th, hopefully. But I did test, and I definitely am going to add it to my tool list. So
they look good, don't they?
Yeah, because currently I'm using the old multi-tool Ego hedge trimmer.
Yeah.
So yeah, it would be nice to have a purpose-built one.
Yeah, for sure.
100%.
They look good. The specs are good. The blade speed is better. Everything about them is just like
everything's better. Yep.
Yeah,
I agree.
So everyone's been waiting for that. I think out of all the Ego tools, that's probably the most eagerly anticipated one, because the previous Ego hedge trimmers just weren't quite as competitive as some of the other brands. All their other tools, awesome, but that's good to see that one's caught up.
Yeah, I am looking forward to the pressure washer.
Yeah,
coming out, because I do a bit of pressure washing or gurneying for the real estates. So that would definitely be beneficial rather than my little, I think it's 1800 psi Karcher. I currently
It'd be
use.
interesting to see how it compares to the Karcher, because I started with a Karcher and I did a couple of pressure washing jobs with a Karcher, and it was pretty painful and slow. So I bought a 13 horsepower Honda.
Oh wow!
And the difference is amazing. You've got a surface cleaner on your little 240 volt 1800 psi Karcher. The surface cleaner is pretty slow.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. I have had a couple of jobs that are quite, we're talking about 200 square meters, and I have been talking to the local hire shop to hire one, because I'd be there forever and a day trying to do that with a Karcher.
Yeah, that's it.
So
yeah, the 13 horsepower Hondas punch out around 3,000 or 4,000 psi, so they make quicker work of those jobs.
Well, I reckon the Ego one's 3,200.
That's why I'm curious to see how it goes. Once you order it, let me know.
Oh well, if it comes to the country, hopefully it will. But I'm 99% certain I'm going to get it. So
maybe I'll have to ask Barry to do a special order.
Yeah, I reckon you should. Well, somebody's got to test it, right?
Yeah, that's right. I'm happy to test it.
Yeah. I'll give it back unless they are happy for me to keep it. But yeah,
well, that's it. Once you tested it, you might as well keep it, right?
Yeah, that's right. It's used now.
That's it. But yeah, that and the mini bike, I'm quite happy to be the guinea pig on those.
Yeah. Oh, look, I'm happy for you to take the mini bike. I'll take the pressure washer.
Okay,
deal. Swap later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
I did see, it might have been fake news, but somebody posted a photo of an alleged commercial Ego push mower that was taken in the UK.
Yes. I saw that, and the comment was put forward to Ego Australia, aka Barry.
Yep.
When are we getting this machine, Barry? And I believe he responded on that post in LMCA, and he said it's in the pipework.
Oh, good.
So don't quote me on that.
No.
I feel like I need to look it up now to verify what was actually said.
I'll look it up too. Because it's... If Ego brought out a commercial pushy, honestly, I think, like you said, the Select Cut, I can't fault it. And I think it does a great job for what it is, considering it's residential. So if they brought out a commercial one, that would just be...
Yeah, I think the Select Cut quality-wise is spot on. I think there's a couple of issues that people complain about with the front wheels getting a little bit of slop in or movement in there, and also the drive mechanism occasionally doesn't release when you pull it backwards.
Yeah, so just push it forward. It's an easy fix.
The other complaint that I have with the select cut is the lowest height of cut that you can go to, and I think that relates to the amount of the underbody that's a flat surface sitting
Yeah,
on top of the grass. So when you drop it down on its belly, it's got all that touching the grass.
yeah,
That stops it from getting down below about 25 millimeters cut height. So I think going to a commercial version of the select cut could probably address all of those issues quite well. And
yeah,
it's pretty nitpicky to bring them up anyway, because they, like, for a machine that's not actually commercial grade, it outperforms a lot of commercial machines.
yeah. Oh, and I agree, 100% agree. So, and it's, we can bring up the catch versus mulch. I think it mulches really well. I think it catches really well. And I've got clients I mulch and I've got clients I catch. Just depends on the grass and the day and the weather, and yeah.
So if you've listened to my podcast for a while, you'll hear me talk about the select cut in the advertising I've been doing for them, and the fact that if you're going to get through a whole day, you're going to need more than just the 2 batteries, unless you can charge on the run. So do you charge on the run? You mentioned you've got a lot of batteries there.
I do have a lot of batteries. I have solar at home, so I charge when I get home. But I've got 8, 10 AMH, 6 12s, a 5 and a 7.
Yeah.
So, and I've got a pretty big run tomorrow where I'll be using the ride-on for half my jobs. So I've got 12 jobs tomorrow, and I'll get through that day with the ride-on and the push mowers, and probably have a little bit of juice left over in the 5 and the 7.5.
Okay.
So, and that's with 2 properties where I'll spend probably an hour and a half on the ride-on. The first 4 jobs will bring my 12 AMHs down to about 17%.
Yeah.
And then I'll put the 10s in, and that'll get me through for the rest of the day. And then once I get to the push mowing, I'll just suck the rest of the juice out of the ones that are left over. But that's a pretty big day. But it's a full day, and it's a lot of lawn. I ended up getting the battery box from Ego as well that charges. So I've got all batteries charging at once when I get home.
Okay.
Because I've got a pretty big Thursday as well. But
so you can charge a lot of batteries at once when you're home.
Yeah, so I can charge 12 batteries at once. Plus, I've got the forever chargers that came with the mowers and stuff back then. So
let's just say that again. You can charge 12 batteries at once.
Yep.
Because a lot of people will be looking at that going, okay, if I've got 12 batteries, when I get home, I've got to go out to the shed every hour and swap a battery out for the next 12 hours to get through the night.
So I charge 6 in the mower. And then there's 6 in the battery box. Yep. And then I think I've got three of the single chargers as well. But because
so you could charge more than 12 at once.
I could charge more. I could charge 15 at once if I wanted to. I don't know what that's going to do to my power, because it's all going through the garage, so I might overload a circuit there or two. But yeah, look, it works well for me, and the fact that I don't have to go and swap batteries every hour, is beneficial.
Oh, well, it means you can rest once you get home. You plug them into charge, you walk away, and you know that in the morning they're ready to go.
Yeah. Well, I don't like leaving it overnight on charge. I'm a little bit OCD like that. So if I get home at 4 o'clock, I'll put them all on charge, and then by 8 o'clock that night, it'll be all done.
Nice.
So, yeah.
That's pretty decent to have them all done by 8 o'clock at night.
Yep.
That's awesome.
So, yeah. I generally charge the 12s in the mower because it does charge a little bit faster than the box. Yeah. And if the mower finishes before the box, then I'll plug the commercial mower or the charger that came with the mower into the box to finish them off. Yeah. Because the box plugs into one of the standard battery packs, if that makes sense.
Yep, it does. So did you consider Pelink when you looked at buying battery gear?
I did.
I'm guessing you ruled them out because they didn't have a zero turn, but
no, it was the price. For the push mower alone, you're looking at $5,000 or $6,000 layout, and that gets me a mower and a big battery, but it doesn't give me a lot more. Where Ego, for $6,000, I got quite a bit of kit.
Yes,
and I was smart I'd like to think I was smart when I bought it. So I used my local Total Tools. So they had their 20% buyback redemption, whatever it is. So for every dollar you spend, you get 20 cents.
Right.
And that lined up with the Ego redemption as well.
Okay.
So not only did I get Ego redemption, I actually got dollars for Total Tools as well. So when I bought the battery charging box, I think that was like $900. I was always going to buy 12 AMH batteries to get me through.
Yeah.
So I bought 4 of those. Then I bought, there was something else. I bought the catcher for the zero turn. And that, along with something else, gave me enough dollars from Total Tools to then get the battery charging box at no cost, pretty much.
Nice.
And then obviously there was I think I got another 12 AMH battery redemption through Ego because I spent more than $3,500. So,
Yeah.
if you're smart about how you buy it, it can really work in your favor and you get quite a bit of kit out of it.
Well, I was just trying to do the maths, and maybe you don't want to give it away completely, but I think if you cross the zero turn off the list, you've probably still spent 10 grand on battery stuff.
Yeah, give or take. I've got a couple through redemption.
Yeah.
So when I bought the Select Cut, I got the Select Cut with the 2 10A AMH.
Yeah.
I think the zero turn came with 4 10 AMHs. But yeah, I've spent a bit of batteries. Spent a fair bit on batteries.
Yeah.
But again, what are you spending on fuel a year if you're running a zero turn, a mower, whippersnipper? Like at the end of the day, if those batteries last me 3 to 5 years, they've paid themselves off.
It's worth it.
So that's my hope.
Easily worth it. I think it's worth it.
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting comparison between that and Pelink, because without the zero turn, I think the Pelink wouldn't actually have cost you a whole lot more than what you've spent on the Ego after you've bought as much as you have.
Possibly not.
It does look like a massive outlay at first with the Pelink, because your battery is a big battery, costs a lot of money. The mower costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
The tools are not cheap. But talking to Tom Benson a couple of weeks ago, he was saying that for probably about $12,000, you get set up with enough kit from Pelink that you'd be able to do everything you need to do.
Yeah. I guess it's like I didn't go out and spend all that money at once. So I started off with the
Makes
push
it easier
mower.
with Ego.
Yeah. So I started off with a push mower, and I think that was the multi-tool. And then it just grew. And then when my hustler had given me one last hurrah of breaking down in a very inconvenient spot, that's when I sort of went, no, I've got to do something different. And I guess one thing, you try and move a hustler by hand, a 48-inch hustler weighs quite a bit, and they don't move very easily.
They'd be up around 350 kilos, I reckon.
Yeah, I'm not a little guy, but I'm not able to lift a hustler up at the front quite easily and move it, where the zero turn, the Ego, I've gotten a little bit of strife every now and then with that, but you can just pick up the front and move it.
Yeah, wow.
It's not that heavy. It's only 160 kilos, but it's got wheels.
Nice.
So it does move quite easily.
Yeah.
Not that I'm recommending going out there and moving them, but it definitely is a lot easier, and it can do a lot more on steep slopes than Egos say it can. So I think they recommend 12 degrees.
Yeah.
I've had this one at 20 comfortably.
That's I'm guessing that's going and keeping it facing up and down the slope. So
yeah. So I drive forwards up and then reverse back.
Yeah.
Yep. So
I think most zero turns should be able to get up a bit around 20 to 25 degrees if you're keeping it facing the right direction.
Yeah. I wouldn't take the hustler on this slope though. That's the funny thing, because I just wouldn't feel comfortable.
Fair enough.
But that's just me.
I'm using the right ZK 61-inch now, and it feels pretty comfortable working sideways on 22 degrees.
Oh, wow. But it's also got wider.
It is very wide, like being a 61-inch machine, and it's got really wide tyres on it. So the traction from those tyres is unbelievable.
Yeah.
So that makes a massive difference. And because the motor is attached to the deck, you get a really low center of gravity with that as well, because the motor goes down when the deck goes down. So all your weight is pretty close to the ground when you're mowing.
Yeah. Yep.
It's a phenomenal machine, but yeah, completely different kettle of fish to what you were talking about with the Hustler versus the Ego.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Well, it's been really interesting talking to you. What's your thoughts over the next 12 months? Because you're coming up to 12 months now. What are your aims and goals? You want to fill your schedule out so that you've got 5 days a week flat out?
Yeah, look, I want to build a business up so I can get. I want to be able to like we all talk about. You get rid of the clients that aren't paying as well. Because when I took over the business, the clients I took over, some of them are still paying $45, $55. I'm there for 45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah.
When you start out, you can't be. Well, I didn't want to be picky because I couldn't take the risk of just dropping clients for the sake of dropping clients to find more money. I did have a client that was $200 a week every week cash, and it wasn't beneficial because I was staying there for 4 hours, and I was taking away a load of green waste, and it ended up being a 4-hour day for $200. And by the time you take tip fees and petrol into it, it wasn't very advantageous. And it took me 3 months to work that out. But when you're starting out, it's like, oh, great, I've got this customer that's paying good money. But it really wasn't. At the end of it when you did the maths. But yeah, I want to, whether it's getting up to 80 clients or 100 clients, but I'm looking for the end dollar value. So if I can, work out a dollar value per minute, and that's my aim. I'm looking for the $100, $110 an hour, and if I can get that, that'll be great.
That's what I keep pushing people to, is compare what your value is at different measurements so that you get a really good overview of what you're worth. Because if you just sit there and go, okay, I need to charge $150 an hour for every job that I do, that doesn't compare when you're doing a 15-minute job to when you're doing a 3-hour job.
Well, exactly.
And if you look at it and you go, okay, if I'm doing $150 an hour, but I do a whole day and I've got $400, that means you've got a lot of unbillable time.
Exactly. And that's exactly what, I was getting at. I had a client where I'd be there for 12 minutes. That's me pulling up, doing the job and pulling away, 12 minutes for $65.
Yeah.
Now, if I had that for every client, I'd be laughing, but, we don't. But then I've got another client that pays $50 or $55 and I'm there for almost an hour. So it's...
If you've got 15-minute jobs, it's hard for you to bill out $1,000 a year. But if you've got large commercial contracts, then you can bill out closer to 2,000 hours a year just because you're in one place all the time.
Yep.
It's a massive difference.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like I've been really lucky with how I group my runs. So I've got a couple that I've got 4 groupings that are local where I'll probably spend half an hour to an hour in the car driving between 10 to 12 properties.
Yeah.
And the rest is just mowing time.
That's awesome.
The local
called route density.
Yeah.
Or route density.
I've got an industrial estate where I've had people laugh when I've posted on LMCA, 4 o'clock start in the morning. Oh, why would you get up at 4 o'clock in the morning? As well, for one, I can't get a car park after 6 a.m. And between 4 and 6, I've already knocked out 7 of these properties.
Yeah.
And then I can go to the bigger ones where I can park. That's I finish at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It's a pretty good day pay wise too. So
look, half the people in LMCA, and I'll get shot down for saying this, but half the people have only been there for the wet season that we've had the last 3 years.
Yep.
Which means that they have not seen a dry, hot summer yet. If you can start at 4 a.m. and you can be done by 1 o'clock in the afternoon on a dry, hot summer's day, that is awesome.
You're laughing, yeah. And at the end of the day, it's my business. It's my choice, isn't it?
Well, let's clarify, right? There's places where a 4 a.m. start is feasible. If you don't have a noise curfew because it's an industrial zone.
Yeah.
And a lot of industrial zones have 24-hour operation. So no noise curfew.
Yep.
Then go for it. Make the most of it.
And that's, why wouldn't you?
Well, I can understand not everyone wants to start at 4 o'clock in the morning, but you're getting a better quality of life better
Yeah.
lifestyle, better time with your family by organising your life in a way that works better for you.
Yeah. Yep. And that's why I got into it. I got sick of the 9 till 5 or 5 till 5 or whatever shifts you were running, where now there are times where my wife forgets to tell me something. I'm like, oh, I'm going to have to reschedule. I'm going to have to start at this time. I'm going to have to do this.
Yeah.
But that's life, isn't it? You've got a wife and kids, sports and schools and plays and.
Yeah, and you've got the option to go, okay, love, I will work around whatever we're doing as a family because I want to. And other times you go, well, I really need to knock out these customers and then we can do family stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Except when the wife says she wants to have 2 weeks off over Christmas and go away, and I'm like, oh, can we do it in winter?
I have traditionally taken winter holidays and not taken summer holidays, but recently I've been making sure I at least take the week between Christmas and New Year's off, and then potentially another week in January.
Yeah,
and
I mean, if you plan your days, you can do it.
Yeah, and I don't usually take those weeks off consecutively. Usually do the week between Christmas and New Year's, and then mid-January or somewhere around there, take another week off.
Yeah,
but it's worth doing.
Yeah, definitely.
And there's quite a few public holidays in that time zone too, so you can easily get, like if you take the week between Christmas and New Year's, you've got 3 public holidays right there.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess with public holidays, it's really only around Christmas, New Year's that they sort of move, where majority of the other public holidays always fall on a Monday, which is why I canned my Mondays and left them for, whatever, because most of the time you're working 5 days a week or 4 days a week. I can work it throughout the year, but then come that first half of the year when all the Monday public holidays come around, I'm like, well, you know what? I don't have to work because I've scheduled it that way. Plus my wife works on public holidays, so.
Yeah, I will. And make the most of what you can.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we've spent a fair bit of time in the dungeon. Not sure if you're comfortable or not, but any parting words of wisdom you want to share?
Oh, not sure, to be honest. I'm glad I got into this industry, and I want to grow and learn a lot more. And, positive, respectful, mutual feedback is always welcome. Yeah.
Well, look, I appreciate your time. I think listeners are going to appreciate listening to what we've talked about with running a franchise, talking about a lot of Ego battery gear and using especially the Ego Zero Turn. That's interesting insight you've got there.
Yep.
Thank you for listening to Aussie Lawn Stars. Please remember to rate and review the show on the Apple Podcasts app or the player you use. Exciting new shows are released every Monday. Make sure you follow or subscribe to hear the next episode.